Hello. Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. My name is Breezy. I have a cold and I am eating ramen noodles. Very disappointed I did not have my beef because I had to settle for chicken. Boo-hoo. Anyway, if you're new here, hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe. Okay, primarily broth really helps my throat right now because I think I have bronchitis because I'm coming off a cold. So please bear with me if you can't hear me. I'm speaking as loud as I possibly can. I have my water right here nearby, so I'm doing my best here, guys. When you're sick, but you still gotta get the workout, right? Um, anyway, today there is a city in Georgia that is on my travel bucket list. What is that city called? Marietta, Georgia. And now the history is known for its unique is no, the history of the town is unique. It is the origin of the name is uncertain, but it is believed that the city was named for Mary Cobb. Now, who was the wife of the U.S. Senator and Superior Judge Thomas Willis Cobb, and with whom um who's the county's namesake. So, guess this was his romantic gesture to his wife. Who knows, right? I know it's probably gross seeing me eat right now, guys, and I'm gonna try and do my best, but when your girl is sick, she's gotta get work done somehow, okay? So bear with me, please. Now, homes were built by early settlers near the Cherokee town of Big Shawnee, which is now known as Kennesaw, before 1824, and the first plot was laid in 1833. Like most towns, Marietta had a square, which was the center of the courthouse, and the General Assembly legally recognized the community in December 19th, 1834. It was built in 1834, and Oakton House is the oldest continuously occupied residence in Marietta. The original barn, milk house, and smokehouse and well house remain on the property. Now, Oakton was Major General Lawrence headquarters during the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain in 1864. Now, Marietta was initially selected as the hub for the new Western Atlantic Railroad as business boom, and by 1838, roadbed and treaties have been built in the city. In 1840, political wrangling stopped construction for a time, and in 1842, the railroad's new management moved the hub from Marietta to an area that became Atlanta in 1850, where the railroad began operation. Now, Marietta would share the resulting prosperity. Now, the businessman and politician John Grover announced in 1848, the popular figure Glover was elected mayor when the city was incorporated in 1852. And their early resident was Carrie Cox, who was a physician and who promoted a water cure that attracted tourists to the area. The Cobb County Medical Society recognized him as the county's first physician. Now, the Georgia Military Institute was built in 1851, and the first bank opened in 1855. And during the 1850s, the fire destroyed much of the city and its on its occasion. Um, Now, by the time the Civil War happened in 1861, Marietta had been recovered from the fires. And in April 1862, James Andrews, a civilian who worked with the Union Army, came to Marietta along with a small party of Union soldiers dressed in civilian clothing. Now, the group spent the night at the Fletcher House Hotel, later known as the Kennesaw House, which I will talk about. I think this is what I'm talking about now. Yeah, this is the Kennesaw House. Okay, I've been sick, guys, so let me cut me some slack. But anyway, which will be known as the Kennesaw House. Um, Now during the Civil War, by the time that the Civil War happened, okay, there you go, I'm back to my spot. And now that the home of the Marietta Museum History is located immediately in front of the Western Atlantic Railroad, Andrews and his men who later became known as the Raiders, planned to seize the train to proceed north to the city of Chattanooga, destroying a railroad on their way. They hoped, in doing so, that they would isolate Chattanooga from Atlanta and to bring about the downfall of the Confederate stronghold. The Raiders boarded a boarded and waited a waiting train on the morning of April 12, 1862, along with other passengers. Shortly after the train made its scheduled stop in Big Shanty, now known as Kennesaw, wow, um, the other passengers alighted with for breakfast. Andrews and the Raider stole the engine and the car behind it. With that carried the fuel, and the engine called the General and the Andrews Raiders have begun the episode now known as the Great Locomotive Chase. Andrews and the Raider failed in their mission. He and his men were caught within 2 weeks, including two men who had arrived late and missed the hijacking, and all were tried as spies and convicted and hanged. Now, General William Tecumseh Sherman invaded the towns during the Atlanta campaign in the summer 1864. In November 1864, General Hugh Kilpatrick set down a blaze in the first strike for Sherman's march to the sea. Sherman's troops crossed the Chattahoochee River as at a shallow section known as the Palisades. After burning the Marietta paper mill near the mouth of the Soap Peak. Now, the Marietta Confederate Cemetery, with the graves of 3,000 Confederate soldiers, were killed during the Battle of Atlanta, um, which is located in the city. Now, let's talk about 20th century. Um, Leo Frank, he was lynched at 1200 Rothwell Road, east of Marietta, Georgia, on August 17, 1915. Frank, who was a Jewish American superintendent of the National Pencil Company in Atlanta, had been convicted in April 25th, 1913, on the murder outside one of the factory workers, where 13-year-old Mary Fagan, the murder and trial sensationalized by local press, portrayed Frank as a sexually depraved and captured the public's attention. At the 11th hour combination by Governor John Slayton and Frank's death sentence to life in prison because of the problems with um, him created great local outrage. Now, a mob even threatened the governor to the extent of the Georgia National Guard had to be pulled to call in to defend him, as he stated he left um, immediately and the political career was over. Another mob systematically organized the purpose abducted by Frank in the prison, and there were two state legislators, the mayor, a former governor, a clergyman, two former superior justice, and ex-sheriff. In reaction, Jewish activists created the Anti-Defamation League, to which would work to educate Americans about Jewish life and culture to prevent anti-Semitism. Now, in 1963, the Alton drugstore a store on Marietta Square exploded Halloween night, killing 6 people and injuring 23. Now, here's why we really came here, right? The Kennesaw House is Kennesaw House is a 3-story historic building in downtown Marietta, Georgia. It houses the Marietta History Center in the building in the west of the town square adjacent to the CSX tracks. Now, the house was built in 1845, making it one of Marietta's oldest buildings, intended for a cotton warehouse, but the building was turned into the Fletcher House Hotel in 1855 after it was purchased by Dix Fletcher. And the Fletcher, as it was called, were the great locomotives and everything. Now, James Andrews, a civilian, was working with the Union Army, made his way down to Marietta alongside disguised as Union soldiers of April 1862. Now, on the night of April 11, Andrew and some of his men spent the night at the Fletcher House in a historic reproduction of what the room may have looked like has been recreated at the Marietta Museum of History. In the town, in that room, the men supposedly slept, and the men, alongside with the leader James Andrews, boarded the train on April 12th, and the rest of the passengers. Now, Kennesaw House was one of the only buildings in Marietta not burned to the ground during William Tecumseh Sherman's Atlanta campaign, partly because Fletcher was a Mason and his son-in-law was a Union spy. And the building, like many others on the Marietta Square, was converted to a war hospital for the Confederate Army and later Union Army. In 1920, the first floor was renovated and converted into to retail shops. In 1971, the entire building was renovated. Um, the renovations included removing the white facade and from the building to expose the original backwork, which would completely demolish the interior. Now, a few of the original parts of the building are in the wooden staircase, some of the fireplaces. In the 1979 renovation saw the top of two floors were converted into offices, where the bottom floor of the Bricksworth being the Bricksworth restaurant. Finally, in 1996, hey, that's my birth year, the Marietta Museum of History assumed occupancy on the second floor and took over the third floor after the Junior League and Southern Baseball Federation left. Since 2010, the center occupies the entire building with its second floor, containing event rental space. But yeah, but that is it for this episode. Join me next time as we talk about who knows what. Y'all have a great day.